City. It's the United States Softball Olympic Trials. The United States taking on China here at ASA Hall of Fame Stadium. I'm Joe Castellano, along with two-time Olympic gold medalist Michelle Smith. And the last time we saw the United States softball team, they were winning in dominating fashion in Athens as they won the gold medal. They outscored their opponents 51-1. A little bit different this time around. No more Lisa Fernandez, for one thing. And like the other countries, China has not been able to solve the United States. 14 out of 15 for the U.S. And that only win for China took 14 innings. Coming up, the United States Olympic trials, softball action on the way from Oklahoma City.
San Francisco, California is our next stop, Matt, where Joe Castellano is standing by live there at AT&T Park. It's the Twins and the Giants, Joe. The Giants have lost 4 in a row. The Twins, winners of 7 in a row. You're looking at two teams that are polar opposites right now.
Yeah, they really are. I guess the Twins brought the hot weather here. Even though it's the first day of summer, it's never this warm in San Francisco, but it's in the 80s. And, yeah, the Twins are hot. They've won 14 of 16. They're as hot as the Boston Red Sox right now. Meanwhile, the Giants, they hit under 200 in their series against Oakland. The only solace in that is that last year they got swept by Oakland in Oakland, and they turned it around and went on fire after that. But last year they had Buster Posey and Freddie Sanchez. Right now, the last 4 games, the Giants are not getting any clutch hitting. They're 0 for 26 with men in scoring position in the last 4 games, so Bruce Bochy is really worried about that right now. And as far as the Minnesota Twins are concerned, later on we'll tell you about why they're staying so hot despite injuries, and they're really not hitting very well.
AT&T Park is where we find Joe Castellano, who's standing there live. Joe, we talked about the Giants earlier. Let's hit on the Twins now, who've been dealing with injuries throughout the season. How have they been winning without some of their star players?
Well, they're getting a lot of contributions from other players that are not normally your star players. Plus, the pitching has been great. They've got the best ERA in the major leagues, 2.01 in the month of June. But it really is hard to figure it out when you look at Span and Kubel. They're not even on this trip. So you wonder how they're going to continue to win this way. Mauer and Nishioka, they're not contributing. They're ice cold right now. And you've got all kinds of players on the shelf. So how are they getting it done? It's pretty amazing so far. And then on the Giants side of things right now, Hazel, you look at a team that they were waiting for Panda to come back, Pablo Sandoval. He finally gets back, and now he's hitting around 200, so he's not contributing. The team as a whole is just not hitting, and that's not good news for Madison Bumgarner because they normally don't score for him.
And let's welcome in from AT&T Park, Joe Castellano, one final time. As promised, Joe, let's preview tonight's pitching matchup. Let's begin with Minnesota. Carl Pavano, 4-5 on the season. He's pitched pretty well recently for the Twins.
Oh, yeah, he's been going the distance. 2 of the last 3 outings, he's gone complete games. And you look at it, a lot of ground balls, quick innings for him, so that's going to help out. And it should help him tonight. He's going to swing the bat that he has 300 career at-bats, over 300, and that'll be a little bit of a help. Plus, he was 3 for 6 last year at the plate as a hitter. Now, on the other side of it, for Madison Bumgarner, this guy just gets no run support, only 26 runs supporting him from his offense. And you look at it, he's had 2 losses in the month of June where he's gone 7 innings and gave up 1 earned run, and he lost both of those games. So he really deserves a lot better than what he's been getting.
That's right, at 3-8. Bumgarner's record certainly doesn't reflect the way he's been pitching so far this season. Joe Castellano, terrific information. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you down the road live there from AT&T Park.
We're going to whip around the league. We're going all the way out to California right now. AT&T Park is where Joe Castellano is standing by. You cover both teams in the Bay Area. What do you know about what folks in the A's organization were saying about what went wrong with Bob Guerin?
Well, I think it was a communication issue, a problem. I mean, when Brian Fuentes came out and made those statements about how there was no communication at all, and when Houston Street made his comments, he's a former player, but when he said that Bob Guerin was the least favorite person that he'd ever been around in sports, it said a lot about Bob Guerin and his communication issues. Now, on the one hand, you look at the injuries. I mean, they've been beat up. Dallas Braden out of the rotation. They've had Andrew Bailey out as far as pitching, and nobody is hitting. I mean, they're not getting any offense at all. So you can blame only so much on the manager, but they certainly want better communication this time around from Bob Melvin.
We stay in the Bay Area and we go to San Francisco right now. Joe Castellano standing by. He's covering the Giants and the Reds, but you also cover the A's, and I want to know from you what they're getting in Bob Melvin, a guy who managed with the Diamondbacks, now in the American League.
Well, I think they're getting a very good manager. He was a manager of the year in 2007 and led the Diamondbacks to the National League Championship Series. And I think he will inject a little more life into the team. He's got a good personality for that. They need to get things going with the bats. They're not swinging the bats at all. And Bob Guerin just didn't have that personality. The big question is going to be if Billy Beane allows Bob Melvin to really take the reins and manage the way he wants to, because that really hasn't been the case. It seems like Billy Beane has been running this team from behind the scenes. Ken Maka took the team to the ALCS, like you were mentioning, and then he was fired because they said there was a disconnect. And now you have the same situation with Bob Guerin where there wasn't communication that they really wanted. So I think in this case, for Bob Melvin, he's really got to show that he can communicate with the players. And it's going to be tough to turn this thing around because they just don't have a lot of guys that are producing right now.
One Giant is finally getting his prize. Joe Castellano joins us once again from AT&T Park. Who is the man who will receive his ring tonight?
Edgar Renteria with the Cincinnati Reds. And you have to wonder if the reception will be similar to what we saw with Juan Uribe. And it was pretty interesting with Uribe because he's a Dodger. And they really wanted to get him back here in San Francisco. He decided to sign with the Dodgers. But he had a nice reception from the fans and his teammates. And I think it was Aaron Rowand and Aubrey Huff who stepped to the plate because management, there was a little bit of discussion about whether or not to have a nice ceremony there for Uribe, and it really was a nice touch. He came out and hugged his teammates, and I think, maybe we'll see the same thing here with Renteria, who was the MVP of the World Series last year.
We saw Renteria with Bruce Bochy in the locker room with the award being given out last year in Texas. Bochy has some decisions to make because Kung Fu Panda's on the way back, and that may complicate some things on the left side of the infield.
Yeah, it will, and I think that Brandon Crawford really has the upper hand here. He's been given the vote of confidence because he's playing great. I mean, he's hitting the ball. He had a couple hits yesterday. He's playing great defense at shortstop. He made a play yesterday that was pretty incredible against the Washington Nationals, so it's really looking like he'll be at short. When Sandoval's ready, he'll be at third, and then you wonder about Miguel Tejada. Is he still going to be with this team or not? That's going to be a tough decision, as well as when Barry Zito is ready to come back, what happens with him? Do you go with a six-man rotation? Do you put him in the bullpen? He's never been a relief pitcher. Ryan Vogelsong has been great, and he's been given the vote of confidence that he'll stay in the rotation. So Bruce Bochy and the Giants, they have some decisions to make.
Joe, we'll get back to you a little bit later with a pitching preview. Reds and Giants tonight in San Francisco. And tonight, the Reds and the Giants face off at AT&T Park. Joe Castellano rejoins the show right now to talk about the starting pitchers. These guys have something in common, Joe. What is it?
Well, Madison Bumgarner doesn't deserve to have 7 losses so far this year. He's pitched a lot better than that. He has an ERA around 2 the last 8 starts. A good example of how unlucky he is. The last time out, he went 7 innings against Colorado, 1 earned run, and he ends up getting the loss. So that's bad luck and also some offense that really hasn't been great. The Giants are near the bottom of Major League Baseball as far as runs scored. With Johnny Cueto, it's hard to explain because the Reds lead Major League Baseball, at least lead the National League in runs scored. They've got all kinds of offense, but for Cueto, even though he's had a lot of quality starts of late, he's only 2-2 on the season. He's had to come back from biceps irritation. He missed the beginning of the season, so he's starting to get into his groove, and we'll see how he does against the San Francisco Giants tonight. Always interesting when Dusty Baker comes back to town as the manager of the Cincinnati Reds, since he had a lot of success here in San Francisco.
Joe Castellano at AT&T Park, thanks so much for the information today.
Welcome to Los Altos Hills for girls basketball, the West Bay League, as Sacred Heart takes on Pinewood. I'm Joe Castellano, along with former Stanford basketball player Drew Schiller. And Drew, you look at Sacred Heart, first of all, they started hot. They were 7-0, and now they're 10-7, so they've fallen on hard times. Melissa Holland, though, has been pretty strong for them throughout the season.
Melissa Holland, just a sophomore, but with plenty of experience as she was on varsity as a freshman. She is the leading scorer for the Gators at 12 points a game. However, she is coming off a 19-point performance her last time out. She is going to need to match that performance for Sacred Heart to pull off the upset tonight.
And Pinewood, the defending state champs, they're 15-5, and they have an all-world player in Haley Eccles, who is their leading scorer and rebounder.
As a junior last year, Haley Eccles, the San Francisco Chronicle Metro Player of the Year. She will be heading to the University of Pacific on a basketball scholarship. She leads her team in both scoring and rebounding. 22 points, 7 rebounds a game. Very excited to watch her tonight.
So coming up, it is Sacred Heart and Pinewood in girls basketball. We can't wait. Stay with us. The opening tip-off is coming up next.